What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's state-owned power company is blaming equipment failures for a spate of outages in the country's north. People who study Taiwan's power woes say these failures don't come as a surprise. John Van Trieste reports.
Northern Taiwan has seen a string of blackouts. Between Friday night and Sunday morning, 2 parts of Taipei and 1 part of Taoyuan went dark. In all, over 1,000 households lost power.
Taiwan's
state-run power company Taipower says 2 of these outages were caused by equipment failure. It's the same thing the company has said about other recent outages, from a blackout that hit a critical Taipei tech hub in June to a series of cuts in Taoyuan in the spring. And this kind of malfunction goes back years. In 2021, it was blamed for causing a grid failure that affected the whole country. Professor Ye Zhongguang says equipment failure like this is to be expected, given the way Taiwan's electric grid is managed. First, he says, maintenance doesn't happen as often as it should due to a shortage of workers. And then there's the fact that Taiwan doesn't have enough energy, and the power company's workaround, lowering the voltage, damages equipment over time.
Sometimes power company has to do voltage step down from time to time to meet the power demand by the general public. And this voltage step down is not a very good procedure for the maintenance of all the electrical, for example, the power supply system and also the cables.
Ye says overcoming frequent blackouts, a major obstacle to the country's tech ambitions, will mean finding more workers to do the maintenance that gets overlooked when trying to keep an energy-hungry country up and running. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The planned phase-out of nuclear power in Taiwan will be one step closer when a reactor goes offline this week. The shutdown will reduce the remaining share of nuclear power in the national energy mix by more than half. John Van Trieste has this report.
After 40 years in service, Reactor 1 at the Ma'anshan nuclear power plant on Taiwan's south coast is shutting down Saturday. With this retirement, nuclear's place in the national energy mix will fall from 6.3% to 3%, a significant step toward the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's goal of a nuclear-free homeland. The state-run Taiwan Power Company says it has a plan to make sure the country has enough power once the reactor is turned off. The plan is to borrow power from privately owned generation, bring generators under repair back online, and make up the rest with renewable energy. The company says it should have no problem keeping a reserve capacity of over 10% during the day and 7% at night when demand grows. But observers have some skepticism about this promise. Opposition lawmakers who have pushed to extend the use of nuclear power have considered moves like amending the nuclear safety law. But even if they do, it will be too late to reverse the shutdown of Reactor 1. By law, any application to extend a reactor's service life has to be made 5 to 15 years ahead of time. A formal decommissioning will involve more steps, like removing reactor fuel and completing an environmental impact report. But whatever views the public or the political classes may have, there are just a few more days until the end of Reactor 1, and then its twin, Reactor number 2, will become the lone nuclear power generator in Taiwan. Justin Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's unemployment rate fell slightly in June to 3.39%. That's according to the latest government figures. Around 1 in 8 people aged 20 to 24 did not work last month, the highest proportion of any other age group. People with an undergraduate degree made up the largest job hunting group. The labor force participation rate, that's the percentage of the population that's either in work or looking for work, stood at 59.25%. U.S. President Joe Biden has dropped out of the race for the White House after growing concerns he was not fit for office. And he's endorsing his Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democrats' nominee to take on Donald Trump. Joyce Zung has this report.
Mr. President, how do you feel? How do you feel?
Despite a COVID diagnosis, a thumbs up from U.S. President Joe Biden the last time he was seen in public. Just days later, he posted a game-changing decision on social media to end his bid for re-election, saying he would stand down and focus on finishing out his term. Democrats and voters have been losing faith in Biden's mental fitness to beat Donald Trump, now officially the Republican presidential nominee.
Going back, I think this was all Biden's fault. I think he made a lot of really critical errors. He's the power of the incumbent in an election, and he acted like the outsider. He didn't have to do that debate. He didn't have to do all these things, but he put himself in the position that where this letter had to come out today was all him and him only.
In recent months, Biden's performance has sparked concerns about his mental acuity, from stumbling through a televised presidential debate to sensitive gaffes at a recent historic NATO summit.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
Now, some relief among American voters that there's a new way forward.
That it was a brave decision for him to step down, well, to pull himself out of the race. I think it was the correct one.
I am glad that Biden stepped down. You know, we've been really concerned about his policy towards Palestine and his, full-throated support for Israel and the ongoing genocide against the Palestinians.
The 81-year-old incumbent is now backing his vice president, Kamala Harris, to lead the Democratic ticket in the race for the White House. If elected president, Harris would likely continue many of Biden's foreign policies, including backing Ukraine against Russia and Taiwan's self-defense against China. Harris met Taiwan's leader, Lai Ching-te, back in 2022 in Honduras, when both were vice presidents representing their nations at the inauguration of President Xiomara Castro. Harris also spoke with Taiwan's envoy to APEC in San Francisco last November, chipmaker TSMC's founder Morris Chang. Despite Biden's support, Democrats have yet to name Harris as their official pick. It would be a historic nomination that would catapult the former California Attorney General, a child of Indian and Jamaican immigrants, to become the leader of a major party ticket.
The question for Vice President Harris is not whether can a woman win the presidency, it's can Vice President Harris win. Her approval ratings as vice president are not great. In fact, in kind of the current polling, the matchups against former President Trump, she's faring only kind of marginally better than President Biden. However, Vice President Harris is really probably the Democrat with the only Democrat with the visibility to mount a strong campaign in this time, less than 4 months before Election Day.
Trump has claimed that Harris will be easier to beat than Biden, appearing prepared to take on his potential new opponent, airing an ad targeting Harris just moments after Biden dropped out.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Many Democrats have quickly backed Harris, but others say the party should hold a mini primary. With time running out before the Democratic National Convention in August, pressure is on the party to use this major opportunity to draw up a stronger route to the White House. Patrick Chen and Joyce Sen for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's stock market has taken a major hit, with shares plummeting over 600 points. It's one of the largest drops in the country's history and follows a resurgence in U.S. stock markets after losses last week. Tech and electronic stocks led the downturn in Taiwan. Investor sentiment is thought to have been affected by U.S. President Joe Biden's decision to end his bid for re-election and recent comments by Republican Party nominee Donald Trump about Taiwan. Trump said Taipei should pay Washington for U.S. defense help. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has delivered his second State of the Nation address. In his speech, he addressed tensions with China over rival claims in the South China Sea, saying the Philippines cannot yield its position.
We continuously try to find ways to de-escalate tensions in contested areas with our counterparts without compromising our position and our principles. I know that our neighbors, too, are doing their best to make this work. The Philippines cannot yield. The Philippines cannot waver.
His comments come as Manila and Beijing announced a provisional agreement over a contested shoal where the Philippines has a military outpost. It follows months of clashes between the two sides in the South China Sea. While Marcos was speaking, hundreds of people marched through Manila to protest the president and his policies. This remote coastal town of Sigu in Chiayi is famous for bird watching during the winter months. In summer, though, it's another flying animal that captures locals' interest.
It's a very special day in the remote coastal town of Sigu in Chiayi, southern Taiwan, where a birthday party is being held for some local celebrities. In Taiwanese tradition, babies' 1-month birthdays are celebrated with dyed red cooked eggs. On this day, about 30 people have gathered under a 4-story-high fan palm tree to celebrate these yellow bat babies. Unlike most bats which live in caves, the yellow bats here make their homes in fan palm and coconut trees. In fact, the locals here didn't even know these were bats for many years, thinking they were birds instead. But after a government campaign to raise awareness, people here have stopped using chemicals and planted more fan palm trees for the bats to roost in.
我们就开始跟长辈说啊，你不要用农药，因为它都会在这附近觅食。然后咱大的所在好，水源也好，这野生动物伊就会好。啊，安尼咱的居住环境就会变最好的。
More than 4,000 bats now live in 9 trees around the town, easily outnumbering the town's human population of only 250. Every year, the yellow bats migrate to Taiwan in late spring to prepare for breeding. After giving birth in June, they fly to Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia.
现在领红蛋咯.
Residents have been celebrating the baby bats' 1-month birthdays for years.
拿好红蛋哦，好，1、2、3。
Sigu is one of the few communities in Taiwan that actively conserves its bats. The animals have long been misunderstood, researchers say.
那反而像新冠病毒，大家一开始把剑指蝙蝠，可是说真的，这么多年过后，真的没有在任何一只野外的蝙蝠身上发现过影响人类这么严重的新冠病毒。
And there are also other practical reasons to conserve the animals.
光一只蝙蝠，它可以吃3000多只的昆虫类，就是蛾啊、蚊子啊，等于是我们社区的清道夫。相对的，对社区来讲，它就是减少病虫害，然后也不会有登革热。
Locals have now developed a close bond with their friendly neighborhood bats.
伊是挂咱社区台湾的名，挂咱社区的名，飞出外国，甲咱介绍咱社区，佮带做侪朋友回来呢。长辈他们就会觉得很骄傲哦，袂输伊嘛是咱的囝同款安尼。
蝙蝠如果不保育的话，它数量会越来越少。蝙蝠减少，我会很伤心。
Experts say teaching young people about bats is key to changing human impressions of these animals, helping humans and bats live happily in harmony together. Luffy Lee, Peachy Zhuang, and Sanny Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of the Tabuik Festival in Indonesia, where mythical effigies are cast out to sea. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.